Namaste, hello, and welcome to the Indian Abroad on NDTV. I'm Priyanka Deo. As President Trump extends conciliatory messages to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Washington, D.C. has simultaneously escalated tariffs while Peter Navarro, Trump's former trade advisor, launches tirades targeting India's energy imports, students, and trade policies. Now, these conflicting signals underscore the contradictions in U.S. policy and India's firm stance on protecting its sovereignty and on its autonomy. On September 9th, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump exchanged messages projecting warmth as well as partnership. Modi called India and the US, and I quote, close friends and natural partners, and emphasized that trade negotiations could unlock limitless potential. Trump, posting on his Truth Social, echoed the friendly tone, describing Modi as his, and I quote, very good friend, and expressing optimism about a successful trade agreement. Now that Trump and Modi appear to be buddy-buddy again and negotiations look positive, it's easy to forget the controversial posts and sharp criticisms by Peter Navarro just a few days ago. Navarro has repeatedly attacked India's tariffs, energy imports, and even Indian students in the United States, exposing the contradictions in American policy. Yet, these public gestures contrast sharply with actions on the ground. Washington, D.C. has doubled tariffs on Indian goods and threatened more. Reports suggest that while courting New Delhi, Trump urged the European Union to impose tariffs of up to 100% on imports from India and China to undercut Russia, a policy move at odds with his diplomatic overtures.
They have higher tariffs, there are Maharaja tariffs, higher non-tariff barriers. We run a massive trade deficit.
Navarro has also transformed his social media into a platform for sustained attacks on India, dubbing it the Maharaja of tariffs and claiming India profits from Russian oil purchases. He has mocked Indian students for allegedly flooding American schools and even floated unfounded conspiracy theories about Indian users manipulating X's community notes. Most alarmingly, Navarro's rhetoric has included references to Brahmins profiting, a move that crossed from trade criticism to caste-based stereotyping, something that Indian Americans fight every single day in this country. This was not mere commentary, but a thinly veiled threat suggesting that anti-India rhetoric and misinformation would continue to circulate if India did not comply with US demands. India's assertiveness stems from its refusal to bend on its core national interests, though. Energy security remains non-negotiable with Modi. Russian crude imports exceeding $67 billion in 2024 alone are crucial for India's growth. Despite US pressure, India argues that Western countries continue trading with Russia and that its development trajectory cannot be dictated by external conflicts. Similarly, India views tariffs and trade regulations as tools to protect domestic industries and not bargaining chips to yield under pressure. While Washington, D.C. frames this as protectionism, India considers it pragmatic policy. The frustration from the US reflects a lack of understanding of India's perspective. Now, this disconnect in US messaging is stark. Trump's friendly posts highlight partnership, yet administration actions like tariffs, coercive pressure, and Navarro's inflammatory rhetoric tell a different story. The US pressures India to open its markets and reduce Russian oil imports, while allies quietly continue their trade. Complaints about trade deficits ignore the billions contributed by Indian students as well as tourists to the United States every single year. And even demands for India to distance itself from BRICS have been firmly rejected. This duality here illustrates a leadership caught between acknowledging India's importance and resenting its independence and autonomy. Trump attempts diplomacy while his aides wield threats, hoping India will relent and comply, a strategy that may have succeeded in the past but today is not succeeding at all. India has countered, and should I say new India, has countered US pressure with proactive measures, relief packages for exporters, GST adjustments to boost domestic demand, and efforts to negotiate free trade agreements with Europe, Latin America, Africa, as well as Southeast Asia. The message is clear that India will not be cornered and is actively diversifying its trade relationships. And while sectors like textiles and agriculture may feel short-term pain from US tariffs, India's long-term strategy emphasizes resilience, energy security, market diversification, and autonomy and independence. Now, Navarro frames tariffs and trade deficits as threats to American jobs, portraying India's earnings as losses for the US economy. Yet trade deficits reflect global supply chains benefiting consumers and businesses alike. Even Trump has acknowledged India as a tough negotiator. He's acknowledged Modi as a tough negotiator, a quality India exercises to protect its interests. So the bottom line here, there's more to it than what the headlines are showing you. The current status quo highlights a confusing American posture, neither here nor there. One hand extends friendship, the other wields coercion. Trump's olive branches, combined with Navarro's rants, exemplify this inconsistency. It's ironic that Donald Trump, an individual who often calls out publications and platforms and fights daily against anti-Trump narratives in mainstream media, turns a blind eye to anti-India rhetoric by his own employee and in fact supports it. A leader so invested in combating misinformation should logically oppose it rather than stoop to publishing or endorsing it. Navarro's Brahmanic and anti-India content was more than just rhetoric on social media. It was a warning that misinformation, disinformation, and biased narratives would continue if India did not comply. For Washington, D.C., the dual messaging may serve short-term political goals, but for India, it reinforces the principle of autonomy all the more. No amount of sugar-coated diplomacy or fiery rhetoric will deter India from charting its independent path. Keep watching The Indian Abroad, hosted by me on NDTV for more analyses. Until next time, this is Priyanka Deo signing off. Namaste.